Oh, Charlie, you blinked. Your
I
camera,
noticed.
your camera blinked. What's going on there?
It's saying hello.
That's saying hello. So, my phone is vibrating. Okay, Shannon is just gonna watch us from afar. We are live on YouTube. Well, you look at that.
Imagine.
Awesome.
Who do we have here? Look at all these wonderful people. We got Mr. Charlie Skywalker. We got the folks at Coruscant Radio Underground. How you guys doing?
We're good.
Good.
Everything's been good here. How's everybody else doing?
Trying to survive. Trying to survive.
Trying to survive. Yeah. Let's all say hello to Shannon from Shannon Gates, our number one scuttlebutter. Scuttlebutter. We had to change that scuttlebuddy. She's the scuttlebutter Shannon S. Gates.
Awesome.
How you doing, Shannon?
Hey, Sheridan.
How's it going?
Yeah, I just wanted to hang out tonight. I wasn't doing anything. I was talking to you guys anyway, so might as well do a little
Yeah.
live stream.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
I was,
Look at someone else's faces.
Yeah, right. What's up, Mr. Rez? Yeah, evening, everyone.
Someone else.
Rez.
It is so wonderful just to kind of chat with you guys in between things, and here in Chicago, we're kind of struggling to keep hope alive, as they say. But yeah, things are good. Things are good.
Yeah. Louisiana's locked down, right across the river. So
Yeah.
theoretically, our city is locked down, but the state's not. So it's fun.
Not so much.
Yeah.
So
$8:30.
how does everyone Star Wars during this quarantine? I know you guys have like tons of Padawans, and my Padawan is, doing his own thing because he's in high school and he's got his friends Fortniting or whatever it is that they do.
Whatever the kids do these days.
Well, that's what I do in the mornings.
Yeah, and it's Chicago Public Schools have pretty much stopped, and I was thinking, how he'll take a break and then he'll check online for homework, and we'll kind of help him out. But I think of folks that do homeschool, and I'm like, should I be doing more with this kid? I'm like, I don't know.
Whatever his teachers send home for, don't do anything you don't have to do.
Yeah,
That's like
right.
number one rule of homeschooling. If you don't have to do it, don't do it.
I'm gonna take you up on that.
Absolutely.
For sure. Yeah. But we're lucky. This kid is a straight A student. He loves broccoli and math. So we're
Well,
lucky.
yeah.
Yeah.
High hopes.
Hard to complain about that.
Yeah. The kids were a little bummed because they were supposed to go down to Peoria, Illinois for a robotics competition.
Right.
All the kids built their own robot, and I saw they had a local event here in Chicago that was really, really awesome. It was a competition. And it was Star Wars based. It was sponsored by, I think, Microsoft and Lucasfilm and
That's awesome.
Oh, cool.
Bill Gates. So it was. It would have been a lot of fun, but this damn virus came along, ruined the party
Ruined
for everyone.
all the fun.
Yeah.
I remember they had a commercial for it. I guess it was during one of the Rise of Skywalker's screenings that I saw, and it was like before it, and they had the whole robotics thing and
That's
get your
what it
droid
was.
featured.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. So
Hopefully they continue. Most of the stuff here is getting pushed back. A lot of the STEM camps and things like that are getting pushed to July, August, in hopes of being able to continue. But we'll see what happens there.
Shannon's got a good question. It's a question that's been on a lot of minds lately regarding Star Wars Celebration. Do we think it's going to be canceled because of the virus? Now, I think somebody had posted that they talked or had some information about that. They talked to somebody at Reed Pop, and they said that at the moment there are no plans to actually cancel it. They're monitoring, everything day by day, and obviously it's in August, so it's
Mhm.
quite a ways away. So a lot can happen. I hope they don't cancel it, but who knows? Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I know Dragon Con, because Dragon Con is
The
run
weekend.
completely by volunteers, and
Mm.
they're moving forward with their volunteer planning, but they're doing all their volunteer meetings online. But they're at this point, I know most of the cons in that time of year are still planning on moving forward.
Lord
But I
willing and the
mean,
creek don't rise.
at this point, who knows? But
What was that, Marisha?
I said, Lord willing and the creek don't rise.
I haven't heard that in a while.
I'm always good for kind of outdated idioms. And that's kind of my thing. Always has been. It used to drive my sister crazy.
That's funny. I am cracking up at that.
Yeah, I think it's far enough out, given the projections that that we see from China and other countries, that it's starting to slow and starting to run its course. June, July, and then everything should be starting to get back to normal around July. And if they can keep it, without panic, then yeah, I think August is reasonable for it to continue. It's just whether or not everyone will have the time off of work after, maybe having to take all their PTO to supplement their income. So I don't know exactly how that will work, but it should go on as it's planned.
Yeah, it's a challenge. Countries will have a lot to catch up on.
yep.
So we'll see, but we'll bounce back. We'll bounce back.
Absolutely.
So what else is going on? You guys, I told you guys that I recorded with Brad last night. It was a lot of fun.
That's exciting.
And very exciting. Very exciting. It's cool to have him back, the original Scuttlebutter. And I'll put that episode together in the next couple of days, and we're working on some other stuff. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. 1 year of the Scare of Scuttlebutt podcast.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's exciting.
So great. Let's see here. Almost the same news over here in Australia. Should be back to normal around August. Yeah, I really hope so. Being cooped up, a lot of people. The other day, so the weather's been really, really great for sequestering and quarantine because it's been crappy here in Chicago. And on Thursday, I think, is when the sun came out. And as I was leaving downtown, I get on Lakeshore Drive and I see just a ton of people walking on the beach and jogging like as if nothing was going on. And I'm like, what the? And the next day, the mayor got on the horn and basically scolded everybody and said, "You people don't understand. Stay inside means stay inside." So
Right.
the police came out and pretty much cleared the beaches, closed the parks. But it was crazy. It was nuts. I mean, people obviously are, they've got cabin fever and they want to go out. But yeah, today too, I saw all these people. I'm like, you know what? I bet you like 90% of these people walking around, they're not essential.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're not essential.
Not like Roe, who is essential.
Hold on. Somebody is telling me that it's hard to hear my mic, and I'm wondering if it's this one or that one. I'll be right back. Let me see if I can change some things here. Test 1, 2. Oh, it should be this one.
I think it's that one now. I definitely heard your mic
Yeah.
in front of you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's set on the right one. Maybe I should talk directly into the mic, and that'll help. Thank you, everyone, for setting me straight. So what else is going on with everybody? You know, we're in a nice little group chat. We're kind of sharing thoughts and ideas, but what can we say in public?
What can we say in public?
Loaded question.
I don't
Loaded
know.
question.
Why don't you tell us?
So, Charlie Skywalker, you got some new gear coming. It's going to improve your podcast. That's very exciting.
Yes, absolutely. I just bought a new mic, so
Yay.
people should be able to hear me fairly clearly now. I have a new headset as well on the way and a new camera.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm using an older iMac, and the camera on it, they say, oh, it's one of the best. Yeah, no, it's not. So
Maybe it was one of the best back in 1992.
I think it was 2017 when this computer was made. So it's a couple of years old, but it's maxed out on what I can do with it. So
Sure.
maybe if I get a stimulus check, I'll get a new computer. Who knows?
There you go.
That's essential.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Money well spent. Money well spent. And then those guys at Coruscant Radio Underground, they always look professional. Look at that setup. That is awesome, guys.
This is every time Andrew gets like Christmas money, it's like, I'm buying a new mic. I'm buying a new camera. Yeah, that's pretty much what he spends his money on these days.
Well, that's good. Look at that. It's very nice. So we got some comments in the chat. Let's start with Shannon. She says, what are our thoughts on Michael Biehn from Terminator joining Mandalorian Season 2 as a bounty hunter? I did hear that tidbit of news, and I like him as an actor. Obviously, he was great in Terminator. I think he's got like that rough, like gruff, presence, that manly presence that I think would work fairly well in a Mandalorian, and especially as a bounty hunter. Don't you agree?
Absolutely. He definitely has the look of I don't want to say like Star Wars. He's if you look at the Empire, they have the defining characteristic of like those high cheekbones and just the very thoughtful, and no matter what they're saying, even if it's a joke, they look serious in everything that they do, and he has that definitely has that appeal to me.
Yeah.
I think he's a good choice. I mean, I think, experienced actor and certainly one that can pull off the role. I'm curious to see what they do with him. I mean, they wasted one bounty hunter they brought in with.
Oh yeah.
No
what's her name?
Ming-Na Wen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really wanted to say I was excited about her being in it. I wanted to see a little more, but
well, that episode had a lot of problems.
It did.
Yeah.
I overall liked the episode, but it was certainly the most problematic episode of the series.
I heard somebody describe it as Dave Filoni directed. Mistaken, but somebody had said that would have been a really, yeah, was it?
That was one of Dave's episodes. Yeah, he did two, right?
Right. So somebody said that would have been an okay episode in a cartoon, but for live action, it didn't work too well. And I'm wondering too, who directed the very first one? Was it Favreau or Filoni?
Favreau, I believe, did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do you guys think Michael Biehn is going to be playing someone we know or a new character?
My guess would be a new character. I do see somebody in the chat mentioned Kyle Katarn, which would be awesome. But I don't know. They've made there haven't even been any hints that character is in consideration. He's not one Filoni mentions. And I hadn't heard anybody else mention that character. So as cool as it would be to bring that character into play, I mean, you'd have to do something totally different with him now. It's kind of like bringing Mara Jade in at this point. It's like, well, I mean, sure, you can bring Mara Jade in, but like her story's completely different.
Yeah, because he was just in the video games, the Jedi series. So I don't know how that would fit in. They would have to revamp the whole character, I believe.
Yeah, I think if they bring anyone in from kind of the expanded universe world, they might have to kind of rework things. But Shannon says probably someone from Mando's past, which I can kind of see. I don't know if he's maybe a former bounty hunter or a current bounty hunter that we haven't seen yet. So
maybe it's Dash Rendar.
No, there you go. I mean, take a look at the similarities. I mean, sandy blonde.
Oh, he could certainly play. He could certainly play the character.
Yeah.
So we have to start watching, the social media channels to see if we see any large shoulder pads laying around the set.
Well,
we'll know.
Somebody asked Zachary Levi a while back which Star Wars character he would love to play, and he named Dash Rendar.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. So speaking of Mandalorian season 2, I mean, I know we've talked about it in the past, but Ahsoka Tano. Now, Andrew, has that been officially announced by Lucasfilm, or is everybody just taking those rumors and saying, "Oh my God, this is fantastic"?
There's some credence to something going on with the rumors, but there's been no confirmation at all. And actually, I really have what really cast everything into doubt for me were Ashley Eckstein's comments that she posted on her Instagram last week, or I guess earlier this week.
Yeah.
Monday.
Where she just seemed totally taken aback. And I just can't imagine that it got that far into the process without somebody talking to her.
Right.
I mean, her and Dave have been close for a long time. And the fact that she was so shocked that this might be happening just made me go, well, I don't know, man. Now suddenly I'm going, I don't know. I don't know if it's true. And we've actually got an episode coming out probably tomorrow. But one of the things we talked about a little bit is The Mandalorian is not actually the show that I would have expected Ahsoka to show up in.
Right.
I really thought that Ahsoka, if she was going to show up in live action, would show up in the Cassian Andor series.
Yes, because of her designation as a.
I mean, she's Fulcrum. She
right.
is the.
Well, right. So, the Shannon says that the ABC guy pretty much confirmed Ahsoka, but didn't confirm or deny Rosario. But who knows? I mean, maybe they were doing. I can see them maybe doing makeup tests or something, and then maybe she will be in the Cassian series, because you're right. She's that character would definitely make sense in that storyline.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that if I think it's going to be like the cliffhanger type thing, like we saw with the Darksaber in season 1. I think at the end of season 2, you'll see a flash, or somebody will come in as Ahsoka, and it'll set the world on fire again. I don't think it'll be a prominent role at all.
No, I agree with that.
And I don't expect, even from a technical aspect, I didn't expect Ahsoka to pop up in small TV. I'm sorry, in small screen Star Wars. But Alex and I have talked about this in the past. Cosplay Ahsoka is one thing, but if you're gonna bring her in the live action, projects for Star Wars, it had better be good and I guess sellable. She's a character that a lot of people, really enjoy and love, and she's climbed to the top of our, favorites list. So you can't mess her up, from a visual standpoint. And I've always maintained that hopefully they do some sort of, technology-based, either character design, whether it's a combination of real life and a little bit of CGI, because I think her look really has to be um, solidified in live action.
Yeah, if it's not,
Yeah.
they're going to get crucified.
Yeah.
Oh, it's risky. I mean, it's risky up there with recasting Han Solo risky.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially after Ashley Eckstein came out and said, I want to do every iteration of this character they ever do.
Well, she's been saying that for a long, long time.
Yeah, but she also reiterated it last week.
Yeah.
Do you think she could pull it off?
I don't know.
I mean, she's got live action acting experience.
Mm-hmm.
She has cosplayed the character pretty convincingly. You know, those photos are out there. You can go find them. I mean, she can certainly, pull off the look. I think the look's going to have to be highly digital anyway. I don't think that would be a problem.
Right.
The other side is it's probably, I mean, we say a physical role, but we really don't know. I mean, if it's kind of a cliffhanger thing, then I don't really expect it to be a very physical thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I can totally see that being a cliffhanger role where, we get that last shot in this last season, and the season had wrapped already, a while ago. So you'd think more news or more leaked images would have come out already, not until now. So I can kind of see that maybe it is a very limited role, and somebody just got wind of something towards
Right.
the end.
Well, and is it also possible that what somebody got wind of was someone in a Togruta costume?
Right.
There's
And
other
it's not-
Togrutas
you
in the
know,
galaxy.
Sure.
Maybe it's not Ahsoka. Maybe it's a
Yeah.
bounty hunter. I mean, that would be
Right.
interesting.
Ooh.
That would be really interesting. Yeah. And Shannon says, what if Ashley does the voice and Rosario still does the acting? I mean, they can definitely do something like that.
I mean,
but-
they could do it, and I suppose it depends on how much screen time there's going to be. I think if it's a lot of screen time, I don't think there's a chance that happens. Just because you're not going to bring on Rosario Dawson to dub over her voice.
Right. Yeah.
And
she's
Ashley Eckstein did say that she wasn't involved in
Right.
Mandalorian
So
at this point. So.
at this point, I don't see them doing that. I don't
Was
see
it like
them.
a hologram or something?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, somebody pops up a hollow pad and then she pops up and then there she is. There's a lot, you can disguise in that sort of effect. So
Right.
I can kind of see that. Shannon says that Mandalorians gets pushed back because of the virus. They've already shot, so right now it's in post-production season 2. So we'll definitely get that released on time.
Yeah.
So that's not a problem.
I would actually say, what are the chances we get it earlier than we thought?
That's what I was thinking.
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that too. The only thing is that HBO has all their series and they have the ability to drop everything at once, but they're sticking to their guns. They're doing all their shows weekly, and I don't know if anybody who has dropped seasons all at once that weren't all at once. I don't think any streaming service has done that. I mean, Netflix drops it all at once, but that's a regular thing anyways for them.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I was just saying, like, what are the odds since it's already in production? I know a lot of the Marvel TV shows that they were working on are now on hold.
Mm-hmm.
So just to move something up schedule and keep people interested in Disney Plus, what are the odds that first episode premieres? I mean, we're looking at like November right now. So what are the chances we get it by, August or maybe before Celebration, we get that first episode?
Yeah,
I think it just depends on how things go.
sure.
Yeah. Sorry.
Go ahead, Charlie.
I think that they'll have for Celebration. I think that they will have the teaser trailer for it, the sizzle reel, whatever you want to call it, and then there soon after, maybe September, they would release just the first episode. Maybe even give it a little extra time instead of the 30, 45 minutes. They give it a full hour. Just whet everyone's whistle and say, hey, come in a few more weeks. We'll have the rest of the series. Just to get people on board a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. Question on our chat: are they still going forward with that Cassian Andor TV show? Yes, but it's been delayed, like everything else.
Everything else.
So we'll see. We'll see how that ends up. I'm looking forward to Cassian Andor, the series. Andrew, I think you and I are kind of on the same wavelength. I'd love to see some of these characters kind of return in that world. I was really interested in the world of the kind of the gray area of the rebellion. I really thought that was an interesting concept, something that we've not seen in Star Wars. So I hope they continue that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, playing to that idea that war is dirty and ugly, no matter which side you look at it from. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we've always had, the light side and the dark side, and there was nothing in between. But this should be really interesting. And yes, Alan Tudyk is coming back to do the K2SO. So I know a lot of people are happy about that. He's a great character, great actor, and we're gonna get more K2SO. So that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah.
Let's see what else. Padawans are crying.
Your Padawans, not my Padawans.
It must be mine.
It's your Padawan.
No, those were my Padawans a few minutes ago that I got up and left because one was going, "Mommy." He just couldn't sleep.
Maybe this mic is too good.
What, Marisha? What did you guys cook for dinner? Any casseroles or
No, we had
stews?
We had stew again. We had leftover stew.
Yeah, my wife and I made some sort of ground turkey taco casserole. We tried it twice. We didn't have what we needed, so we kind of mishmashed some pulled chicken. Not bad.
Not bad. Hey, that counts.
Yeah, we've been doing a much better job of eating our leftovers.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, well, can't just go to the grocery. I mean, I guess we could, but
yeah.
Like, I mean, if there's anywhere in this town that I'm gonna catch the plague, it's gonna be at Walmart.
It's gonna be, right?
It is, I mean, for sure enough gonna be at Walmart. And they've got like 3 people in our little local hospital with it currently as of yesterday.
Wow.
So there's only 20,000 people in this city. So odds are pretty good of exposure in Walmart.
Wow, yeah.
But yeah, my kids, they don't care that like we're not going to the grocery store again for another week. They're like, but I don't like it. It's not my favorite. That's the line. It's just not my favorite, Mom.
It's just not my favorite, Mom.
Peanut butter sandwiches.
At least they're honest.
We're out of bread. They can't have peanut butter sandwiches.
Well, yeah, my wife and I don't cook, and then when we do, we'll make a big pot of whatever just to have stuff. But
right,
after like day 3, it's like chicken chili again, hun. I don't know.
Like, yeah, I don't ever want to see spaghetti again. We did like several weeks. I mean, because it's easy and everybody in the house except me likes it, so I cook it a lot. But we've had it 2 or 3 times since this started, and I am done. I don't ever want to see spaghetti again. It's not my favorite.
It's not my favorite, yeah.
So you guys know me. I post a lot of my cooking stuff in our group chat, and so yeah, today I made grilled chicken. I sliced the chicken breasts in half. And then put some cheddar cheese and seasoning in between, just to flavor it up a little bit. I had hamburgers and hot dogs on the grill for lunch.
Nice.
But my spaghetti, I come from an Italian neighborhood back east, and so my sauce takes about 6 to 8 hours to make.
Wow.
Just let it permeate all day long, and then it's. I love to cook though. It's a good stress reliever.
My sauce takes 6 to 8 minutes. So I was telling you guys that I recorded with Brad last night, and Pete Fletzer had posted a really interesting question that I'd like to pose to you guys, being veteran podcasters yourselves. So the question was, what do you know now that you wish you would have known when you first started about podcasting? Marisha, Andrew, I'll start with you guys. It's like I said, it's a
It's a
very
lot of
interesting
work.
question. Is it? Yeah. Tell me
Like,
about it.
mostly his work. I mean, I mostly just like show up and talk and then let him do all the real work. But
But you know what though? I can tell in from all the stuff that Andrew does and just even the look on his face that he enjoys that work.
I do.
Yeah. But it
But
is a lot of
it is
work.
it is a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. You know, once I started editing the episodes and started going in and going, well, I can, realizing how much I could manipulate stuff and fix stuff and clean stuff up, and then kind of go down that rabbit hole of
I can take out every time he's like, Marisha, stop saying and.
But no, I mean, that is an interesting question, but I guess yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't realize how much work I was going to put into it, but I don't think that would stop me from doing it now. I mean,
Yeah. I agree. It is a lot of work, and then you hear, I mean, you see the interaction of everybody that listens to you, and you want to do better. You want to make it better for the listeners, and you want to always. It's funny. You always want to top yourself, but I mean, sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, okay, this is really cool," but I think it's, and me specifically, it's that mentality of like the next one's got to be better. And I mean, it really doesn't, but I guess it's like that work ethic in us. It's like you really want to up it. You want to challenge yourself too,
Yeah.
as well. Both technically and from a content level. Charlie, you're kind of new in the podcasting world, but still, you've had a couple of episodes under your belt. And I know that you've learned a lot even in the short time that you've started your show. What are some of the things that you're finding out about being a pod people?
The main thing is that I wasn't, I guess, ready for or didn't really expect was how thick your skin has to be.
Yeah. We talked about that. Brad and I talked about that. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, when I first started out within my first or second episode, I was trying to relate to a group that I didn't quite understand their point of view and where they were coming from. So I just asked some questions, just general questions, and was immediately just laid upon with language and obscenities, and I was just trying to understand.
Yep.
Just okay, I think this way, you think this way. Why do you think this way? Maybe we can get together and at least come to some sort of agreement. And
No, because you're chauvinistic.
like an adult? You mean we can have a conversation like adults?
Well,
That's ridiculous.
That should tell you everything right there.
right. So, but from then, and I talked to you guys a lot about the specifics of it and how to combat that, and it basically just don't give up. Just keep plugging ahead. It'll come, it'll pass. Just keep moving forward and just try to get better with every episode, and that's what I've been trying to do.
Yeah, it's again, Brad and I talked about it last night. It's you have to be kind of true to yourself and to the message, and I guess to the aura of your channel. You can sometimes kind of step out of that, but as long as you're honest with yourself and honest with your opinion, I think people will kind of latch on to that. People can smell BS from a mile away. As we've learned, people have latched on to the Scare podcast for whatever reason, but I think one of the biggest reasons is because we're genuinely in love with Star Wars, but we're also we can genuinely discuss, like you said, Marisha, as adults, what we don't like about it, and it's paid off. So I'm glad I know there was an edge that you were kind of like teetering on, Charlie, and I'm glad you stuck with it, and it's really great to continue to have you on board. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's, you guys have helped me a lot in many different ways. Sometimes I talk about it, sometimes I don't. But we really, have become a family. Star Wars Twitter has been great as far as the build up. Um, and the content is absolutely amazing, and the support that we give each other is beyond compare.
It really is. Really is. So I got another question that was asked and that we answered and talked about last night, but I'll pose it to you guys. Our friend Shannon asks if we were to pick one character in Star Wars to have a podcast, who would that be, and what would it be called?
Ooh.
I know Lando Calrissian had his
That's the obvious
his
answer, I
his
think.
his little live stream and stuff like that, his podcast. But we talked a little bit about it, and we'll share what that was in the episode. But what are your thoughts? Any characters come to mind that would be a good, podcast host? That's a really great question, Shannon.
It is a good question.
I mean, if we could get like a translation going, I mean, I think R2 would be a pretty epic.
Oh my God. I mean, he pretty much knows everything that went on, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
You just sit there and just kind of, ask leading questions, and you have to bleep some of them out, because R2, you got to watch him.
Yeah. Who else would be good?
My first thought was, and I'm probably going to get the name wrong, Dex from
yes.
prequel.
Obi-Wan's friend?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
He just
Is it Dex?
It's Dexter Jetster.
Yes.
okay, Dex. Yeah. So it's just he had that that voice that just kind of rolled and just was I know, that's a Camino dart. It's just had all this knowledge, and he's just it would be a fun time, I think.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
What about Grand Moff Tarkin? Talking Tarkin.
Tarkin talk. Yeah. I think that's another radio ad for Rob. Talking Tarkin. Who else? Let's see in the chat. The two-headed alien announcer would be good. The guy from the pod racer.
Mm-hmm.
That they were totally announced. Nice pod.
Yeah.
GTFO, Shannon, Jar Jar Binks as a podcast announcer. I guess I can see that. Like Star Wars comedy podcast. Yeah, but there's so many great characters in Star Wars. It's you just pick one and go with it. And that's one of the great things about just being a podcaster in general. I mean, obviously you can talk about the films and kind of analyze what happened in A New Hope, what happens in The Empire Strikes Back. But one of the things that I really love about creating content, and I'm sure you guys can kind of agree, is that we don't have to go that route. Like the episode that we did all together, the legacy of Leia Organa, and how her actions, what was she all about? I mean, the episode where we the Team Scarif and we did the legacy of the Force. We kind of really dove deep into the lore of balance. So it's as many characters and stars there are in the galaxy, there's probably as many podcasts, roaming around. But that's the really great thing about that. You can never get bored listening and picking up different podcasts and different subjects.
Yeah, absolutely. Now my mind is just thinking of different characters that would, I was even thinking, it's like, all right, well, if what Star Wars character, if their occupation had failed, what would they do? My first thought was like Obi-Wan. He would be one of those guys that hypnotist, that would go around and try to cure people from smoking.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Life, yeah. So if me and the Jedi didn't work out, what would he do? That's his second choice.
Totally.
Yeah. That could be a real fun episode. Like
Yeah.
pitch alternate career paths.
Wow. Yeah, that would be really good. Andrew, what do you guys lined up for this science fictionary lately?
We're still working on some new stuff. We're supposed to record. We're a little behind on that, but we're doing Marisha and David are kind of doing their first ever watch through of the Star Trek movies.
I heard. That's exciting.
Marisha had seen some here and there, but not all. But David had never seen one.
He had never
wow.
seen Star Trek.
And his dad
at all.
is the biggest Star Trek fan I know.
Like not even the original series?
He had seen
No.
nothing. He had just
Wow.
like never watched any of it. And his dad talked him into going to the theater. Fathom Events showed Star Trek the motion picture
Mm-hmm.
in theaters. And so his dad was able to talk him into going to that. And he fell in love with it.
Wow, that's cool.
And so we're doing that. I'm realizing, especially with David, because he's so much younger than the rest of us. He's just out of college, or he's still college age.
He's
David's 20.
Yeah.
And realizing how many great sci-fi series he's never seen.
Oh my God.
So we're fixing to
he's
start.
like a major nerd. I don't know. Like
I'm
how this
starting to
happened.
give him. He's never seen an episode of the X-Files. And
What
so
is he, wait a minute. You say he's a major nerd. What has he been nerding about?
I don't know. Video games.
he's big in video games. He
Millennials.
likes Tolkien stuff. There's some of the stuff he's into, but he's real into comic books.
Mhm.
Comic books has always been his and his dad's thing. And so that's been his primary thing.
Mhm.
But he hasn't seen Firefly. So we've got a lot of these things, but I've just started kind of giving him some homework on X-Files.
Yeah.
So we're gonna start moving into some of those and get a chance, because we didn't want the show to become just doing like what's going on today
Sure.
in sci-fi. We want to go back and talk about Trek and Firefly and X-Files and so many of those other great series. And David gives us a real interesting window
Mhm.
Yeah.
to do that, where I can say, well, David, and because right now I've got him watching the first 2 episodes of X-Files because we wanted to get into that, but I think we're going to kind of do some jumping around in X-Files because there's so much.
Right.
But I said, you can't watch it until you watch the first 2.
Mhm.
Like, you've got to watch the first 2 episodes to understand who Fox Mulder is.
Right.
And
So-
from there, we can start jumping around.
Well, when he watches that one episode that I think was banned called Home,
Yep.
let me know, because I'm curious to see what he thinks.
Yeah, that one's high on the list of ones to watch. So
I haven't heard of that one.
Oh my God. It's creepy.
Yeah. See, like, I can do X-Files like little bit, but some of it's just I can't do that.
Yeah.
So when it gets like the creepy flat guy who like
Yeah,
goes,
yeah. I
oh,
remember
Victor
that.
Toombs.
yes, I can't,
Yeah.
I can't even.
I think that's the first time
No.
I've seen that actor, and ever since he's been in other stuff
Mhm.
from that, and that character is like so creepy.
So creepy.
Yeah,
He's one of those I can say the name. I can say his name and watch my mother visibly squirm.
Well, and when Andrew and I were dating, he convinced me to go with him to the theater to see that movie. And it was so creepy. I don't know what was wrong with me. I married him anyway, but man, I was like, no, this is not fun.
The first movie.
I don't know.
Was
It's the
came out in,
one
like,
that would have come out in like
2008?
2008.
Yeah.
I can't remember
It
which
was
one that one
so
was.
like the
They
guy in the
reanimated-
pool.
Oh.
Yeah, it was very
That was
unsettling.
X-Files, I Want to Believe. It
And
came out in
it was
2008.
late. We went to go see like a late show too.
How romantic.
Yeah. No.
Well, that's awesome though. Yeah, I'm so glad. I'm so glad you found each other.
Yeah. So-
Charlie,
so-
what are you watching lately?
Oh, no, I started another rewatch of the Star Wars movies. I normally do them one a night and then just kind of keep them on a rotation. My sleeping patterns are all screwed up. So normally my wife will watch something and I'll fall asleep. She falls asleep, I wake up, and then I'll throw on a Star Wars movie.
Wow.
So right now, let's see. Last night I finished Empire. Tonight will be Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
And yeah, it's between that and Resistance Reborn are my two go-to things right now.
Mhm.
Absolutely amazing book.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I did a show with Marisha and Andrew about novels and stuff, and right after we published, I went over to my mom's neighborhood where we used to live, and I passed by that little
Yeah.
the old bookstore, and the building was still there, and I snapped a picture of it.
I remember.
I just remember going into that. It was one of those used bookstores where nothing was organized. It was just like piles of books.
Mhm.
You just like walk in, like the ending shot of Raiders of the Lost Ark. You just walked in. So I
Yeah.
remember that place. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Talking about creepy characters, I can't watch Back to the Future, the first one, the same after watching like Charlie's Angels and Willard, because the George McFly character in it just goes completely off the deep end in those two movies.
Mhm.
Oh,
And now when I'm watching Back to the Future, I'm like, wow, it's just and I thought George McFly was kind of odd and weird, and man, it's nothing now.
that's too funny.
That's
Crispin
pretty
Glover was that guy.
I just watched the new Pet Cemetery with my wife, and that was creepy. It wasn't as good as I remember.
Not as good as you remember.
It wasn't as good as the first one. I remember liking it, I think, a little better, but
Did you watch the
Yeah.
It remake?
no, I did not.
That's pretty creepy.
Yeah. Somebody posted a picture of a roll of toilet paper on the side of the road by a sewer cover with a red balloon hanging up on there, and they
Yeah.
just posted, "Who did this?"
Yeah,
But,
that's pretty
yeah.
funny.
But it's talking about science fictionary, it's a really good time to be a geek. There's a lot of
Mhm.
stuff
Yep.
out there for us to enjoy.
Mhm.
My wife and I sometimes sit in front of the TV and we're flipping through Netflix, and she says, "There's nothing to watch," and I'm like, "You are missing 80% of the content out here," because she's totally not into sci-fi. She loves her dysfunctional family, movies and things like that. So it's too bad.
That sounds like you need to watch Firefly.
It's true.
Yeah, it's true.
It's a
Yeah,
pretty dysfunctional family.
yeah. So yeah, we'll watch something together. Then she'll go to sleep, and then I'll sneak down to the basement and I'll headphones on and I'll watch my stuff for another 3 hours.
Well, you guys might know because I'm kind
That
of
works.
I've always been more on the Star Wars bandwagon than Star Trek. Are you? I know J.J. Abrams did the first two remakes of the Star Wars, and then they were writing a third one. Did they ever do that one? Or
Oh yeah.
I lost track of where they were.
Yeah. Star Trek Beyond
Yeah.
was the third film. I don't remember who directed that.
I don't know.
The
Simon
Fast and
Pegg wrote
Furious
it.
guy.
Yeah, I can't think of his name, but yeah, he did.
Yeah.
He's done a bunch of the Fast and the Furious
And
stuff.
it shows. It definitely looks like a Fast and Furious film.
But it was written by Simon Pegg, who plays Scotty in the film.
I really liked it. Everybody hated on it like a lot, but I liked it.
It's got issues. And it's funny that you bring up Star Trek, Charlie, because there's a whole lot of hurt right now in the Star Trek community. There's a lot of people that are really talking about Picard and some similar stories when us Star Wars fans were talking about, assassination of character from, the films that are out now. But it's interesting. I'm obviously more of a Star Wars fan than I am a Star Trek. I have the CBS All Access to watch Discovery and Picard. I like it, but I can kind of tell, why some really hardcore Star Trek fans are ticked off. For what it's worth. I just, I get it. Spock had a sister all of a sudden. It's kind of weird. I mean, I can accept stuff when they change things, but I can tell some of the creative decisions that went into the new Star Trek are a little questionable.
Star Trek Into Darkness was a or not Into Darkness. Star Trek Discovery.
Oh yeah.
Was a continuation in a lot of ways of something that has been plaguing Star Trek for a while, and that it largely has lost its hopefulness.
Mm-hmm.
Go back to pretty much everything after Deep Space Nine. Kind of lost that. And even Deep Space Nine was beginning to struggle with that.
Sure.
And you did was it Enterprise was
it was just mostly preachy. It was
Enterprise.
Okay. Yeah.
Was that the one with Scott Bakula?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Star Trek Discovery, and I really feel like for the problems with Picard, some of the things that I didn't love about Picard, that it was the first one in a long time that kind of had that air of hopefulness about it. In a lot of ways, it's more hopeful. At least your main character. I mean, having Picard back brought some of that hopefulness for the galaxy or for the universe back, just because of his character. Because I felt like for all the things that I didn't like about it, I felt like Picard was still Picard.
Yeah. What did you think about how the overall, I guess, theme of what was happening in the galaxy, especially with how Picard was treated? It seems like one of the biggest things that people are really upset at is, one, it's Star Trek is something that's no longer family friendly. We've got some gruesome scenes that kind of
so many
cross the
F-bombs.
lines. Yeah, the swearing. And it's not, it doesn't really serve the purpose. I mean, the last couple of, F-bombs have really just been just a throwaway line, and they really didn't need it. So I hope that changes, because obviously, Star Trek has always been kind of a family thing, and
Yep.
can't do it.
And that was my biggest complaint with the series.
And it's too bad, because I mean, it's not, now that they're behind a paywall, is it trendy just to kind of throw an F-bomb just because? I don't think it needs it. Star Trek has never needed it.
No, I don't think it needed it. I think that it's just like, kind of like CBS just kind of, has joined the streaming game and kind of it's kind of them going, we're one of you guys now. And, it's just like, because everything else on streaming services is that way. So I guess they felt like that it was time for them to join the party. But I didn't need that in my Star Trek.
Yeah. Have you guys, I'm sorry, Charlie, go ahead.
No, it's, I was just going to say, I haven't gotten, I don't have CBS All Access or whatever it's called.
It's free. It's free right now.
Oh, is it? All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to download it and check it out then.
Yeah.
It's, I got tired of paying the $150 cable bill for 3 channels that I watched. And so now I just have Netflix and Disney Plus. And that's pretty much what I stick to. My Star Trek fandom I couldn't stand William Shatner. Just absolutely couldn't get past his inflection, the way that he just paused every second, and his sentence structure was just odd. And
That's pretty
So-
good, Charlie.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
I really couldn't get into it. I really liked the storylines of the original movies. I watched them all. I couldn't get into the TV show for the couple of years that it ran. I was a kid when that was on. But I really grew up and fell in love with the Next Generation.
Yep.
And I've watched, even it's on Netflix now, and I think I've watched all of the episodes already. I just binge watched 4 or 5 at a time and just go on with it from there. But I really, then I know they rebooted the TV or the movies and kind of got into them a little bit, and then it kind of dropped off. Well, then Star Wars started picking back up, and it was a good break, from the downtime of Star Wars. But just I really couldn't get into it, so it's kind of sad to hear that they're dropping, they're following the conformity of the streaming services with the language and things. But I don't know. I'll have to give Picard a chance on CBS just to see what they've done with the character.
I've been watching. Obviously, I watched the entire run of Picard, and one of the things, my favorite episodes have really been the ones where we see some of the older characters, and there's a couple of episodes where, some of the older characters that we're familiar with from the Next Generation are in the episodes. And they play such a big role in my nostalgia that I'm really, really enjoying those episodes, and seeing those actors back on screen and interacting with each other is really something special. So that's I'm enjoying that. And then the way the series kind of capped off, really. I want to say it's really good stuff, but I know that a lot of Trekkies will have a problem with that. But yeah, you should really check it out. I think because of the coronavirus and everybody kind of sequestered, CBS All Access is free this month, so you should definitely check it out. And Picard is all out. The entire first season is out, so you'll be able to binge it.
So, how would you rate the backlash for Trekkies versus, say, like the Star Wars backlash and the Rise of Skywalker, Reylo kind of thing?
Well, even before that, I mean, right now, I think what they're going through is what we went through with The Last Jedi, and the treatment of Luke Skywalker. So it's it's right there. I don't think it'll get to, I think Star Trek fans, I feel, are not as crazy as Star Wars fans, as far as fans and like hating on each other. But we'll see. It's an interesting animal.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of backlash, even before, going back to just before the first J.J. Abrams movie came out. We were at a con. And I mean, people were railing against it before it came out.
Wow.
And
is that because, why was that?
I don't even really know. They were, I'm sorry, I guess it was after the first one. It was before the second one came out. Because it was different. I mean,
it was too Star Wars,
which we've talked about it on our show. And Daniel's really good to talk with this stuff about, because like I said, he is, as much as I love Star Trek, I mean, he knows Star Trek like I know Star Wars. I like Star Trek, but I don't have like an encyclopedic knowledge of it like he does. And it's interesting getting his take on it, because he is a fan of the old stuff, but he also likes a lot of the new stuff. Honestly, they didn't like that it was a little more action paced than Star Trek had been in the past.
And that goes to what Mersha, you just said. It was too Star Wars.
Well,
I've heard
J.J.
that- I've
Abrams
heard
made,
that, yeah.
I mean, like, made the mistake of saying, like being recorded saying, how can we make this more Star Wars?
Yeah,
And-
but
yeah.
some of
wasn't a
it
hit.
was what they didn't like though was the way the phasers worked on the Enterprise or the handheld phasers, because they fired so much faster. They changed the way they fired. I'm like, come on, man! It's like technology's so much better than it was when they made the original series. Like,
Sure.
it's okay to update those things a little bit. But
Sure.
what Daniel said about it, and the reason I do love the originals is because they were smart enough to separate the timeline so that these new things didn't affect our old thing.
Right.
Like, we weren't changing our old characters. We weren't changing what happened to our old characters. We weren't throwing the past away. We were just creating an alternate timeline. And he, for Daniel, he says that because they did that, because I knew they didn't throw away the things that I grew up loving to create this, that it wasn't a reboot, that it's just taking place alongside what we already know.
Yeah.
And I think
Interesting.
for him as a comic book fan, maybe that was a little easier to accept that
Sure.
that alternate timeline concept.
And that's a very, that's a very Star Trek concept, though. Like all, divergent timelines and stuff. I mean, we saw a whole evil crew of the Enterprise in a original series episode. So,
And I think most of that is was done for the different studios owning the different rights and incarnations of Star Trek. Paramount versus CBS. Unfortunately, I think that kind of legal wrangling kind of hurt the franchise. My opinion, but. We see a little bit we see a little of that in Star Wars. You've got the Wayfinder instead of the holocron, things like that. So I kind of have a feeling, everybody's like, well, why don't they just call it a holocron? Well, it was like, well, maybe the holocron is a registered trademark of Mr. George S. Lucas, and Disney doesn't want to give him any money, but who knows? I think, when these companies get involved, it gets a little tricky.
behind the scenes drama rarely is good for
Yeah.
franchises. It's not good for the fans. It's not good for the franchises, I guess,
Yeah. That's where they suffer. Or that's where we suffer. I'm sorry, Charlie, you were going to say something?
Oh no, I was just going to say it's behind the scenes drama is just not good for anything.
No.
Yeah. As we know for sure. But so we're all talking about Star Wars and geeking out about stuff on a regular basis. What would you guys, if you guys had another podcast, what would you guys podcast about that wasn't Star Wars? Charlie, anything come to mind?
Oh yeah, lots of things.
Oh, yeah.
Like a smile on him. It's like, oh yeah, I know.
Well, my other passion is one, religion, because I'm studying to be a youth pastor, and then two, after that would be JFK conspiracies.
Oh, nice. So that's how Brad and I met. We'll do a little retelling of that encounter on the show. But I had another podcast where I talked about collecting Star Wars, and I did, I don't know, 7 shows, and then I kind of shut that down. But then I started getting on Twitter, and I met Brad, and we started talking about JFK because he's a big JFK conspiracy enthusiast, investigator type of thing. And he was doing some research on a project, and I own a video production company. And I said I would love to see this as an actual documentary. So if you ever want to like hook up and then try to do like an actual documentary on all the stuff that you've discovered, that would be awesome. But then we started finding out that besides JFK, we liked Star Wars. Same birth date. It was kind of a weird thing. But,
That's bizarre.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And you guys, I know you guys are, spinning a lot of plates. with everything that you guys do. But I was going to ask you, what other podcasts would you do other than Star Wars? But you're already doing it.
Yep.
It's true. All the other nerdy things. Although, I mean, I personally could probably talk about Lord of the Rings forever. Like, if I just had to pick one other thing to talk about that wasn't Star Wars, that was like nerdy stuff. I mean, I do a lot of other, I do philosophy and I do theology and I do all that stuff too. Like, but that's kind of different. That's my other me. But yeah, we've been watching Lord of the Rings with the kids, extended versions, of course, because the other ones don't count.
Yeah.
So,
Plus, we have all this time.
Right. Exactly. So, although we still haven't managed to get one done in a sitting, it still takes 2 or 3 nights to get through a 4-hour movie with,
of course,
3 kids somehow.
Yeah.
And there's still Tom Bombadil.
Yeah.
I know. No Tom Bob. I know. Every time we watch it, Andrew's like, I mean, couldn't we have just spent a few minutes in the old forest?
There's a colleague of mine who just told me that he just discovered all the Harry Potters, and he's been spending a lot of time watching all the Harry Potters. And he's not like a sci-fi or fantasy guy. I guess he just popped one in and just it spoke to him.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I could do that too. I don't know if you guys have ever seen any of my tattoos. Let's see if I can get my arm to. I got the dark mark there, and I have the Deathly Hollows on this one.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you talk about Harry Potter too, huh?
Oh yeah. Well, it's fantasy. It's something that I've always used as an escape mechanism. So.
And isn't that fantastic? I mean, we have all this really cool stuff to kind of free our mind, and I think that is the advantage of really, liking the sci-fi world and the fantasy world. It makes you think outside the box and kind of approach problems from a different perspective, and I think that's very useful in real life.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm actually writing a little bit about that now, just kind of jotting down some notes and stuff, which possibly could be coming out in the near future. We'll see how that works out. But
I hear there might be an avenue for you to be able to publish some of those things online very soon if you choose to.
I've heard rumors, and hopefully it comes to pass, and we can get those out there.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. You have an admirer of your Captain America shield in the background there from the chat. But
it's a.
It
ought to be admired. I know how much it costs.
Right? Yeah. I was gonna say I was able to pick one up, but it's the not even it's. What is it? It's plastic.
Okay.
It's in the garage, but it doesn't look as shiny and nice as yours does.
That one's metal.
Yeah, that one's metal. But that one is done by a company called Shield Labs, and they do a really fantastic job.
Very nice.
If you have extra money,
which we all do. I mean, look.
Right.
I mean, we got all kinds of random stuff. There's Mandalorian hats wearing fedoras, and I mean,
Mandalorian helmets.
Mandalorian helmets. Yeah,
that's awesome. But that's cool.
That's Dave. I've been wondering if anybody would ever ask about it, but that's Dave up there,
Mr. Filoni himself.
I just figured it was an Indiana Jones hat.
It is actually an Indiana Jones hat, but the kids kept asking, "Why did you put that hat on the Mandalorian helmet?" I was like, 1, it needed a place, and 2, because now it's Dave.
If you guys have helmets that you want to display, one day I should do like a quick little video. My Mandalorian helmet up here, and Kylo. So you go to Home Depot and you go to the plumbing/toilet section, and there are the O-rings that you put, right? So the hardware, and then the tubes, you get like 1, 2, 3 elbows. The white, white plumbing tubes, and you put them together, and they make an S. But you put them on a wall, and then when they make the S, that's where you mount the helmet.
Okay.
It's a really cheap alternative to getting these $100 and up mask wall mounts, and $20 at Walmart. Great alternative.
Yes, we have several actually that need to be hung. Andrew keeps buying them because all the kids don't have orders for their Mandalorian armor they want.
Yep. Yeah, I need to make 3 sets of armor before Dragon Con, so.
Yep.
Funny. What's if money were no object, what would be on everybody's wish list?
Ooh.
That's a hard one for me too, because I usually end up finding some really good deals on eBay. I've got like 4 helmets on the floor. I got to go make another trip to Home Depot, but what would be good?
I just saw today they have a Lego Millennium Falcon, and it's the collector's edition one, and I can't remember how many pieces it is, but it's $1,000.
Yeah.
And it's huge, and it's super detailed. And as much as I love Legos, I used to go nuts. So when I was working in the oil field and had unlimited money, it seemed like at the time, single and no kids,
Right.
I would get like the $200 X-wing kits, and those were the biggest ones at the time, and this one puts them to shame. Either that one or the Star Destroyer one that they have, which is another huge model. It gives my finger something to do while my mind takes away, and it's Star Wars, and it's just cool when it's finished.
Yeah, Legos are awesome. I saw some of the pictures that you sent in our group chat, but some of the vehicles are really great, and I saw people are posting. Obviously, everybody has got a lot of extra time with the kids, and they're putting some stuff together. And yeah, those are great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And what about you guys, Marisha? Andrew?
Me?
If money were no object.
If money were no object, I would actually finally get that costume made from episode 1 with the gold thing and the big horns and the ridiculously expensive velvet.
The red.
The red
one or
from the Senate. The Senate.
Oh,
It's got like the gold head
Yeah.
thing. And I can't come up with any way to make it look like I want to and not cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And I may have already spent at least a couple of $100 on this project, and it's still just pieces. Yeah. So that's what if money were no object, I would finish that costume.
well, I find it hard to believe that you can't make it look like $1 million because of all the stuff that you've already done that I've seen. So
Well, thank you. Thank you. But gold is really hard to
yeah.
to fake. It turns out, for some reason,
Yeah, episode 1, Padme had some really amazing outfits.
Yes, very amazing outfits.
I've got that book by Trisha Bigar, Dressing a Galaxy. Flipping through that book, just the amazing amount of work that her and her team, put all this stuff together.
Yeah, it's unreal. So my girls and my niece, they sit and they look through it and they're like, "Oh, look, I want this one and I want that one, and they need these to go with it."
Sure, I'll whip
Which
that
is
up.
the real reason. Right, exactly. And that would be the real reason I can't afford to make the costumes I want, because I keep making all the costumes they want.
Yeah.
But they're so much cuter than me.
Yeah, she made for our oldest that the black invasion dress from episode 1 a few years back, and that one is pretty incredible.
Yeah. That's amazing. Andrew, how about you?
I think right now mine actually might be a costume too, because I've really been wanting to do the 501st thing. My dad does it. My dad is actually the Vader, one of the Vaders for the Mississippi Garrison.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Um,
His
and I've
dad's like 6'5".
yeah. So I have always wanted to do like, and I know that that's one of the more expensive ones to do, which has always been the reason I've gone, no, I'm not going down that rabbit hole, because I know how. I've been told that that is the single most expensive costume you could do for the 501st.
Which
It's
one was
like
it? You cut out for a second. Which costume?
The Boba Fett,
Oh,
like
okay.
the highest level Boba Fett.
Mm-hmm.
That one can get really, really expensive to get all the
Sure.
right pieces. Um, but one day I will do it.
I'm kind of
But
glad that
for
money.
now, I'm just hoping. I've got all the stuff to do an officer,
Mm-hmm.
just to join, and then hope to get a stormtrooper done.
I just ordered a Gideon Hask for the 501st.
Nice.
That's awesome.
The only problem that I would have is one. I wish I had more time and talent devoted to actually creating the actual parts that you would need for a 501st. Obviously, hanging out with Todd from WSTR Media at C2E2 in Chicago and walking around with other stormtroopers was just a mind-blowing experience. I keep telling everybody it's, seeing a stormtrooper in real life, it just never gets old. And there was some great, Heather was the Jawa, and you had some other, AT-AT driver pilots, and just amazing work. And it's, and again, it's better than the movies, because the movies you didn't really have to be like 100% perfect, but these costumes are, and it's such an amazing experience just to kind of just be in the presence of.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many things that if I had the money that I would just like, I went down a rabbit hole the other night with discovering Eagle Moss collectibles for the first time, who does all of the ships for like every Star Trek ship ever done, pretty much. And finding all those models and going, I need that one. And I can't just have the small one. I need the full, like the 12-inch models. And
those are really fun to, I used to do a lot of models, and I put lights in them and I'd weather them. And obviously that's, high school and college, you have a lot more time and less mortgage payments.
Yeah. I'm kind of glad that money is an object, though, because Andrew has already filled up his room of Star Wars stuff and various other random nerd memorabilia. And that's it.
Yeah.
We're not decorating the whole. We already have Star Wars posters in our living room. That's it. That's where we draw the line. We're not filling the house with tiny ships.
Well, the other day, I put one of my Darth Vaders in the dining room just to see if my wife would notice.
She did, right?
She noticed.
Yeah. How long did it take her? What, an hour?
3 seconds. As soon as I put it down, I told you guys that she's got like this powerful sense of smell, so she probably smelled evil coming out of my room and into the regular area. But oh well.
Yeah, I know. Wives. They're just no fun at all.
No fun at all.
And he's just like dead silent over here. He's a smart man.
Yeah, he looks busy.
So busy.
He's doing something.
Yes.
I know if I say something, mine will pop up behind me. And
yeah.
But guys, thank you very much for hanging out with me on this impromptu little Star Wars chat.
Yeah.
Had nothing else to do. I started watching the Ozarks with the wife. Really, really good on Netflix. But hopped off to talk with you guys. I'm glad you guys came out.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, we enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Always
fun.
So that is it for the Scare of Scuttlebutt special triple crossover episode that happened by chance, and I am so glad that we did this. I guess, Andrew, you can go and clean some fish now.
Yeah, I might have to ice them down and do that tomorrow.
We'll do that after virtual church. Because, can't actually go and interact with real people. You got to do all the things on the internet.
Totally. We had a kind of like a department meeting, and everybody's on the phone, and it's like, hey, can you hear me? We're like, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. It's a
But,
strange world right now.
It's the new norm. We'll see
Yep.
what happens. But again, Charlie, Andrew, Marisha, thank you very much for joining me, and we'll see you guys in the chat real soon.
Absolutely. Have a great night, guys.
Good
Take
night.
care. May the force be with you.
I'm with you.
And you.